Welcome back to the making of Smiley's Friends Eclectic Part 2. So, great question. So for this album, this being the fourth, it kind of coincided quite tragically this year with losing some pretty major names. Obviously, David Bowie and Prince primarily, and it was actually the Prince thing that set it off, because that hit me more than anything, surprisingly. I don't know why it was the Prince one and the Bowie one to a point, but the Prince one really hit me between the eyes, and I wrote a song pretty much straight away, which is on the album, Turn Around Mr. Nelson, because it just hit me just what a massive influence he had been. And then from that point, kind of took in the fact that it was such a bad year for losing such great musicians. The David Bowie thing, I remember being on tour last year actually and saying, can you imagine what it'd be like if David Bowie dies? And sure enough, you know, in he came. And I think it's only when you're writing songs, sometimes you don't realise where you're pulling in the inspiration from, and then it's later. I think this time around I had an idea of a few vocalists I wanted to use, and so I wrote in that vein, in the hope that they would say yes, and luckily most of them did, some of them didn't. But the writing thing, because I've been into music for such a long time now and been involved in it in various guises, I kind of like to think I take a little bit of everything all the time. I'm always listening and I'm always learning, and I'm always, if I do a session, I'll stick around and I'll watch and I'll listen, and I've been lucky enough to play drums for some of the biggest and best writers in music history, which is, you know, that's there's no greater reward. So, you know, if you can't take that in and use it as a positive influence, you know, going right back to my dad's record collection. You know, my dad always had Beatles records and the obvious ones like that, but he also had like kind of Glenn Campbell and John Denver and people like that, which might not sound particularly cool, but songwriters and structures and melodies and, you know, things like Wichita Lineman and kind of, you know, Annie's song and stuff like that. That's stuck with me since I was really young. So over the years, it's kind of developed more on a certain, you know, for me it's always been about melodies and harmonies and structure, and that's like why I work with Graham as a lyricist, because he's my finisher. I'll write a lot of the lyrics early on, the ideas, and it's kind of, I give him the storyline and he finishes it, and that's the way we've worked on certainly on the last 3 albums, and that's we've kind of developed it even more this time. So yeah, influences tragically this year, having lost so many brilliant people, but definitely this album, Prince and David Bowie and the Beatles.
Oh, so inspirational.